You're listening to Science for Soundness, the podcast. This is not your usual podcast. This is a journey, and as with any journey, I don't know yet where this one is going. If anything, I'm hoping to inspire you to take the first step, even if it's into the unknown, even if you don't know where you're going and you do it scared. Hi, I'm Steffi. I'm an equine scientist and equine therapist. I've made it my mission to support horse owners on their individual journey of horse-human connection and personal growth. I want you to know that I'm with you on this one. Think of me as a friendly voice, a reminder to stay the course, to keep going, keep listening to yourself and to your horse, even when the going gets tough. Let's do this. Hello, and welcome back to Science for Soundness, the podcast. Today, I'm going to share something with you that I was actually asked. So if you have any questions, a little reminder, you can always drop your questions either via email, via DMs on Instagram. You can also comment on here under the podcast or under any of my posts. If you have a question, I will do my very best to answer these and try and get a response to you. But some of them are so profound that I feel like they deserve to be shared with everyone because we all go through things all the time. And I feel like a lot of us, me too, at a certain stage, we all go through things that make us believe that we are alone on this journey. And we're not. I'm here to say we are not. So, so many people start only to do something or go towards a certain direction or start something that means a lot to them once they feel they are more regulated, more ready, or more healed, or more adequate, or more perfect. And I want to talk to you about why the journey is the healing. And this episode hopefully invites you to step forward from wherever you are, including overwhelm or freeze or doubt or imposter syndrome, because that shit is real, you guys. So I want to start out with a question that I was asked, and then we'll just see where it takes us. So the question is, what would you say to someone who feels like they're too dysregulated, too uncertain, or too messy to begin their healing? Whoa. I mean, there is so much in that question to unpack, but I want to start with this idea of we have to be perfect or a certain way or ready enough in order to do something. I put the healing part in brackets for now because I feel like this goes for pretty much everything. Why do we feel like we have to be good at something first before we can show up for it? In this whole healing context, that makes no sense, but also in every other context, it wouldn't make any sense. And my best guess why this happens is that we all went through a school system of some kind, or most of us at least went through a school system that, valued output and high marks over anything else. Individuality wasn't a thing that was graded really, other than in maybe physical exercise or in arts. I don't feel like there was any subject at school where I was graded high on being myself. And that's a huge problem. So from a really early point, we are all taught that we have to fit into a norm. We have to fit into this idea and this ideal of what society wants us to be and thinks who we should be. And it really throws a lot of us in front of a lot of existential questions and even crises, because who are we even? It took me a long time to discover who this person actually is, and still I am discovering more and more of who I am as I'm growing and evolving. And I want you to know that you do this too. We all play numerous versions of ourselves throughout our lives, and we constantly have this opportunity to reinvent ourselves and rediscover ourselves. But we have to be brave and start experimenting, start exploring. And there are numerous reasons why we won't do that. So one of them is that we grew up with a system or in a system that rewarded output based on things that somebody else taught us rather than individuality, like I just said. And that means that only if we get all the answers, only if we know what is expected of us, and only if we feel like we are in control of the situation, the outcome, everything around it, and to do with it. Only that feels safe to us, to our nervous systems, to, the whole experience doesn't feel safe unless we have that control. And this is like a really basic, I'm talking at a really like basic level to you right now. There is a lot more I could go into depth here, but I don't feel like this is the space. I just want you to understand that you are hardwired to stay safe. And you are going to go with whatever experience it is that makes you feel safe. So if you've learned that staying safe means adhering to other people's ideas and ideals and norms and sticking to the rules and that, not really feeling who you are, but, at the same time feeling safe in that experience, then that's what you're going to do, because that's what feels safe to your whole system, to your body. So I think that is a huge thing that plays into it, and we all need to be aware of it in some way or another. Like I said, there is so much more depth we could go into here, but what I want you to try and do is start anyway. Do it scared. I mean, obviously be mindful around that. Don't go and do stupid shit, but if you feel like posting something on Instagram, but then you get imposter syndrome and you delete the post straight away, or you keep re-editing it, and you're just too worried to show up as who you are, just try and do it, and try and stick with it for a little bit, and do it scared. And then you can still delete it if it doesn't feel like it's right. But, at least you dipped your toe in it and you tried. So some of you might be wondering what helped me start anyway. And honestly, I don't know. I have this streak in me. I believe I always went for this idealistic thing. I have this idealistic way of looking at things, I guess. And I am trying to always be better. I am trying to always learn more about myself and unraveling all these things that make me me, all these layers, all these stories and things that happened and things that didn't happen, everything that is a part of me. And especially when it comes to the world around me, the universe I'm in, micro as it is, but I want to play a role that leaves it better than it was before. So I have this idealistic approach, I guess, where I really want to leave this space better than I got it, than I found it. And I suppose it really did play a role, or does play a role still, in terms of horses and equine welfare and even animal welfare, because I am a huge advocate for that with everything that I do. And I found that streak in myself very, very early on. And I guess I was lucky in that, because I found something that to me personally felt like purpose. So knowing that I want to help horses live better lives, and I want to help people understand their horses better so that they can have a joyful time together and they feel safe with each other and connected to each other, because I know what this profound connection can feel like and how beautiful it is. Wanting to have that for everyone, because surely once people see their animals through my eyes, they are not going to willingly hurt them. That was my idea back then when I was 11. And when I was 11, I stopped eating meat because I felt like, I cannot say one thing and then do another. I really stuck with it. And I feel like throughout my life, I've had all of these pivotal moments where I chose this idealistic streak over anything else, where I chose my purpose over anything else. And it's not always been, an easy ride. It still isn't, don't get me wrong. But it definitely is something that was so worth it and always is so worth it. So I will always show up as myself. I will always show up as an advocate for horses, an advocate for animals even. I will always show up as someone who is going to try and make a difference. And that really helped me start anyway. But without, I can't say that and not share that parts of me still don't feel ready. So with every new challenge I face, with every new, let's call it a speed bump or a little niggle or something like that, everything that I face that hasn't been familiar yet, because everything new is not familiar, therefore I don't know the outcome, therefore it doesn't feel safe, right? So think back to what I said at the beginning. But even though I don't feel 100% ready in a lot of things, I'm still showing up as who I am, as the person I know I am, and I know I can grow into even, because I'm still not, all of me. There is so much more to explore and to find out about myself. So there are still parts that don't feel ready, but they don't stop me from trying to do the thing anyway. And especially the purpose helps with this. I'm not sure if this is helpful at all, but if I could describe to you what it feels like to walk this journey now, I would probably say fulfilled. It feels like it often is a challenge, it's a stretch, but I feel like with every experience that I get to make, every experience that allows me to feel more me, feel more of myself, and feel more of the impact that I get to have, and getting the feedback from people from all over the world sharing stories with me, how I have positively influenced their horse-human relationship, the way they show up for and with their horses, with their other animals, and how this even trickles into their everyday lives, to understand that this is not just helping me become a better version of myself, but really is making an impact for so many people across the globe on so many levels is profound. And it feels humbling AF. It feels so beautiful at the same time though, because it also allowed me to form connections with other people, form connections with like-minded trainers and breeders and just genuine human beings who deeply, deeply care, just like I do. So, I still have pinch me moments. I still stand there in the middle of a clinic feeling like, holy shit, who am I to share this with you guys? Who am I to even stand there and be better than anyone else, because I'm not. And I think that's the difference. It feels stretching and scary, but in such a good way, because that stretch kind of gets filled with all these emotions and all these positive moments, as well as the scary ones. The understanding that I can doubt myself, but I can also still show up for myself is so powerful. And it's incredibly empowering, because I don't give up on myself. I am here for myself. And yeah, it just feels incredibly empowering to do that. And I wouldn't change that for the world. So there is a lot of rambling here now, but I hope, if anything, that is helpful to know that I still have my doubts, and I still feel like, who am I to share this with you? Who am I to pretend like I'm someone better, because I'm not. But that's the difference. I don't feel like I'm better than anyone else. I'm not standing in front of people pretending I have it all figured out. If you ask me a question, I don't know about it, I will admit that I don't know about it, and I will go and read up about it, so that next time you ask me that question, I will even get back to you about it and then say, this is what I found. And then next time somebody asks that same question, I do have an answer because of you, and I thank you for that. So I think what really does make that difference is the approach and the perspective that comes with it. So it's not like I'm feeling like I got it all figured out. I'm going to show up anyway, and I'm going to make this the best learning experience that I can, because it is so much better than any school system ever was or will have been. So, I guess some people call it the school of life. I feel like that's a pretty shitty way of putting it because it really doesn't transport the depth that I feel when I talk about this to you. But yeah, I guess this perspective and this opportunity to every day lean into the lessons, lean into the heavy stuff, lean into the things that make me feel scared, and then reflect on them, meditate on them. Or, when I'm doing the yard and doing the chores, that gives me so much valuable time to reflect on all of these things, to go into a conversation with myself and to ask myself, okay, why is this coming up for me? Or what's happening here? Why is that happening? And just genuinely inquire with a curiosity rather than with judgment. So maybe that is something nice to leave you with. Don't judge yourself harshly for the things that you haven't done yet or you haven't learned yet how to master. You're not going to master them in theory by not doing them. You are going to master them by diving in head first and giving them a try. Be playful with it. That's something I keep telling people. And I just recently at a clinic, I was asked a question, and the person it was a beautiful question, and I just kept saying, be playful with it. And I understood, and this brings me back to the beginning, I kept repeating myself, be playful with it, be curious with it, rather than judging it, rather than making it mean something. And the most interesting thing was that it dawned on me, I think about the third time I repeated, be playful with it. And this person was still asking, but how are you playful with it? And then I felt like, oh, of course, because being playful also has to come from a space of safety. So if a situation, and it doesn't matter what it is, doesn't feel safe for you to try out, to even dip your toe into it, you're not going to do it because it feels scary and it feels like it is threatening and it feels like it's dangerous, So you're not going to start to be playful with it unless you have permission, unless you have someone who could possibly help you co-regulate into a more balanced and safe state in that moment, until you have maybe even the permission from yourself to be at fault sometimes, or not to get it right, or I don't even want to say at fault, but just permission to not be flawless, because none of us are. And it was just so interesting. And that brings me back to the beginning. If you've never learned that being yourself and being playful and inquisitive and curious with the world is safe, then you're not going to try and do that by yourself. But to bring it back to the original question, the healing happens in all of that journey. Everything I've just said, I mean, there were a lot of words, but everything I've just said, that is part of the healing. Walking that talk, walking that journey, walking through the messiness and walking through the good bits and the bad bits and the magic and also the mess. It's all part of your journey. And wouldn't it be boring if it would just be highs without any lows? Because, that's it's also not sustainable, by the way. So yeah, I feel like this is a really good place to end because it kind of brought us back to the beginning. I just want you to know that you are not alone. We all have these kind of thoughts. We all feel like we're not adequate enough. We are not ready yet. We need to do more, learn more, be more, all of that. I hope that you know that the space I offer with Science for Soundness, for horses, but also for the humans, and that means you, is open no matter what you feel like you have to do and be ready for. We are welcoming you as you are, for who you are, because that's where I find the magic is. If you're in that place too, if you're feeling like, any of that just made sense to you and you feel like, oh, I would like to know more about these inner thoughts and things happening, then a journey to self might be the place to go. This is going to be a really deeply personal, behind the scenes experience that I'm going to be sharing over 3 weeks while I'm on a road trip with my dogs this summer. And if you want to walk beside me, it is open. It's a private space where I share real moments from the road. So you might get voice notes, you might get reflections, you get the magic and the mess, like I just said. There will be horse encounters, there will be human encounters, but there will also be a lot of me time and reflecting and everything in between. So if that sounds like a place you would like to discover, and maybe, just maybe, this is not just a journey to self for me, but maybe it's going to help you walk home to yourself a little bit more as well, then the link is in the description, and I'll see you next week. Hi friend, I hope you found something in this episode that resonated with you. I'm beyond grateful that you hung out with me today for a little while, and I do hope that you come along for the ride. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast, and if you feel like it, leave a review. Your feedback is greatly appreciated. If you have any questions or would like me to talk about a certain topic, check the show notes for ways to get in touch. I can't wait for next time. You got this.